Most musicians think that if they just play better or sing harder or drop one more song, that success is going to magically happen for them. But that's just not how this works. See, if you don't understand the basics of music business, you're going to spend years spinning your wheels and you're going to watch even less talented musicians pass you by. So in this video, I'm going to break down music business for you in very, very simple terms that you can use to start applying literally today, immediately, to get the success that you want. So if you've ever had any questions about how much to charge for a gig, should you accept this gig, how to operate with people, any of these things, everything that I'm going to break down here for you today is going to answer all of those questions and more. And what I want to do is I want to give you 3 core principles that are going to be the game-changing principles to everything that you're doing. You're going to be able to use these today. The first one I want to start with is this. The first principle of music business is this. It's music business over busyness. It's music business over busyness. So I was working with an artist a couple of years ago who reached out to me about doing some music production for a project they were putting out. And we came up with some really, really good music. We were going back and forth about what to do with it, and we came up with some really good concepts, and the music turned out really, really great. But what this person was doing during the time that we were recording is they were, quote unquote, trying to market the product, the CD. So they start recording some videos of them singing some of the songs and all of that. And they were putting it out on social media. They created flyers, digital flyers and regular flyers, like physical flyers, and put them on people's cars and all of that about the CD release, and, put a website together and all of that. All of the things that most of us think that we should be doing, right? When we put out a project, it sounds like intuitive. That's what we should be doing. But what this person didn't realize is that they had no business acumen, and they didn't set up themselves as a business in any kind of way. And they didn't think of their CD release and their project release as any sort of business transaction, when that's really what it is. And so as a result, when after 3 or 4 months of us doing the production and getting the CD ready and all of that, and him doing all of this busy stuff, putting out the flyers and all of that, they released the CD and sold a total of 9 copies. 9 copies. After all of that work, 9 copies. Now, granted, it's been a couple of years ago now since that happened, and I'm sure that they've sold a few more, but I don't think that even in 2 years they've sold more than 50 copies of their CD. I think it's probably even less than that, probably less than about 30. And the lesson here in this is that when you don't think of yourself as a business, when you have this artist mentality, which is a lot of us musicians, artists, and bands have. I'm just a singer. I'm just a drummer. I'm just a keyboard player. I'm just an artist, right? When you think of yourself as that and don't think of yourself as a business, you leave so much money and so much relationship with people who can bring money in for you. You leave all of that on the table. See, your hobby as an artist, because that's really what it is. When you consider yourself as an artist in these times that we're in now, your hobby will bring in a little change, but your business will bring in the checks. That's the first principle that you have to understand about the music business. You, sir, you, ma'am, you are a business. You're no longer just an artist. We're no longer in this time where you can't wear, or you can wear only just one hat. I'm just an artist. No, you're an artist, you're a marketer, you're a promoter, you're all of these things. And that's just the way of the world that we live in if you want to be successful. So that's the foundational principle here. Understand that you are a business and you need to operate as such. Now, this is where we get into the nitty gritty. This is where these principles the next two I'm going to give you where you're going to start applying them, and you really start taking immediate charge of your career with these. The second principle is this. This is really, really important. People buy you before they buy your music. Let me say it again. People buy you before they buy your music. So, about a year and a half ago now, I released a CD, a physical CD. And when I was writing the music, when I was composing the music, the whole time I was thinking, man, should I put out a physical CD? Like, nobody listens to physical CDs anymore. Most people don't even have a CD player in their car anymore. If you have a new car within the past 5, 6, 7 years, you don't even have a CD player in it. People don't have CD players, at their house or even on their computers hardly anymore. So I'm thinking to myself, like, man, should I put this out as a physical CD? I really wanted to, but I was questioning it. So I didn't know. But something I figured out along the way of thinking about that process and how I should do this is I was putting out posts and stuff on social media about what I was doing, and people started asking me questions about it. And as people were asking me questions, I started getting into my story about why I was writing the music and why I was releasing a CD and what it meant for me and how far I've come as a musician and how I've defeated odds of where I am now in life, all of these kind of things. And what happened was, in that process, people latched on to my story. So when it came time to release the CD, what essentially people were buying, they were buying into me, not my music. See, this is a realization that the reason that this is important is because this is the realization that we as musicians and artists and bands, we have to understand. This is the sad truth, and it may hurt your feelings, but it's just the way that it is. Nobody cares about your music. I know you got some good original stuff. I know you've done some nice covers. I know you can sing. I know you can play really well. I know you spent time, energy, resources, money recording it, and you put all of this effort in. You got the blood, sweat, and tears and the marks to show for it. But nobody cares. Here's the kicker. This is what you need to understand. The only thing people care about is what's in it for them. That's the only thing that people care about. And when you learn how to position what you do as a package of value of what's in it for them, you skyrocket. So as a result of my CD release, I did a CD release where I made just about $20,000, where once I include all of the overhead that I had to use to produce the CD and get it out and all of that kind of stuff, I made just under $20,000, or right at $20,000. Whereas the first person in the story I told you about, I was doing the music production for, sold a total of 9 CDs that first, I think it was the first 2 weeks, he only sold like 9 CDs at $10. So you're talking about $90. We'll round it up to $100 versus $20,000. And again, these situations taught me a valuable lesson. As I'm telling you this now, that people buy into you before they buy your music, this is something that I've seen repeated not only in my own process and everything that I do on social media, all of the videos that I put out, all of the products that I put out when I'm marketing my band, when we're trying to get hired places and all of this kind of stuff. People buy into you before they buy into your music. So the lesson here, and here's the action step. What you want to do as an artist band, when you're trying to release something, when you're trying to sell something, put you into it. Put your story out. Don't just put up on your social media, I'm selling a t-shirt, I am selling a CD. People are going to, your friends will be like, oh, that's cool. And they'll hit like on the post and then they'll move on to something else. But when you put your story out, one of the stories that I told about was how my mom, didn't have any money, and my family was, we weren't the richest family in the neighborhood. We were far from it. And, my mom bought me my first keyboard, and how that changed my life and all of this kind of stuff. And people were like, oh my God, that's such a great story. Like, your mom is such a great person and all of this kind of stuff. And then when I put out the CD, that's what they were thinking about. Most of the people who bought my CD hadn't even heard the music on it yet, because I didn't release it on social media. I released it on social media and on streaming and all of that way after I did the physical CD release. So most of the people hadn't even heard any of it yet. The reason they bought was because they bought into me. So again, the action step there and the lesson is put yourself into things that you're selling. When you're marketing yourself, when you're talking to clients about hiring, tell them these stories. Tell them, oh man, I really appreciate you trying to hire me. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this because I come from a long way. Like, all of these things you can be telling in your story, particularly when you're putting out stuff on social media. Now, the third principle is this. This is, I think, the most valuable one. This is the one that I subscribe to the most, and this is the one that I tend to use the most because it's the most powerful. The third principle is this. Perception is profit. Perception is profit. So let me show you something. This is a laptop. Let me put this up. This is a regular laptop. Let me see if I can put that up. This is an Acer laptop. It's a Windows laptop. I'm going to sit this one over there. And I also have here a MacBook Pro. This is my MacBook Pro, if you can see this. MacBook Pro. Both of these laptops, I'll sit them here, are almost exactly the same. And when I say exactly, I'm not kidding. They have almost the exact same specs on them. Same hard drive space, capacity, same processing capacity, USB ports, all of these things. There's some slight differences. So I'll say 99.999% the same. Two laptops that are exactly the same. Let me ask you a question. Which of those laptops do you think cost the most? You already know the answer to that. You know it's the MacBook Pro. Why is that? Why is it that you can have two things that are virtually the same, almost exactly the same, cost significant, and one of them cost significantly more than the other one? I'm talking about the MacBook Pro. When I bought it, was almost double the price of that Windows laptop, that Acer laptop. How is that possible? How is it that somebody can have two of the exact same things and one of them be sold for twice the price as the other one? It's the lesson of perceived value. Perception is profit, my friends. The way people perceive you is the way that they pay you. That's a good one. I'm going to use that one again. The way that people perceive you is the way that they pay you. Perception is profit. Here's the thing. When you're marketing, when you're putting out stuff, it's about, again, we talked about this a little bit, but about packaging it in a way that's going to give the people the perception of the value that's in it. Do you know when every year when Apple is doing their new phone release and the new iPhone comes out, and the same thing with Samsung now, when their new phones come out, they do this big, really big presentation. They have this event where they talk about all of the new products that's coming out. So they release the new iPhone and they talk about how the screen is brighter and how the battery charges faster and how it lasts longer and all of these new apps and the AI compatibility and the capability on it. All of these things creating a perception of value in your mind. They literally take an hour explaining all of these things. All of the things, by the way, that are really no better than what it was the year before. You know, slight increases or slight better. So essentially, again, you have two of the same products. They spend all of this time and then they tell you, oh, all of this, and you get all of this for just $1,000. They're creating a perception of value. Let me show you how this applies to you and us as musicians. I tell this all the time, but one of the things that I do when I'm marketing, when I'm sitting down and talking to potential clients, particularly wedding couples who want to hire me or my band for their wedding reception, when we're talking and they're telling me the things that they want for their reception, my response to them is always something that creates a perception of a lot of value. The first thing that I do is I start repeating back to them what they say. Okay, so I'm understanding you correctly. You want this, you want a live band, you want these kind of songs, you want the dance floor full. And then I create a package with that. What I add to that is I say, yeah, I understand. And the reason that you want that, because I understand that, this is the biggest day of your life. And what you really want is your friends, 5-10 years from now, remembering this wedding and saying, oh my God, they had such a great time and the dance floor was full and they were dancing and they were drinking and have such a great time and all of this. I'm doing the Apple presentation version of my band. You're getting all of this. We're going to show up on time. You don't have to worry about us being late. We're going to show up. We're going to do all of the music that you want. We're not going to do the music that you don't want. We have our own equipment, our own sound system. We're going to build this. We're going to have screens in the back. We're going to have the best keyboard player, the best drummer, all of this. We got all of this. And our price is $10,000. You see how that's different from what most people do? What most people and most musicians and artists and bands do is they say, oh yeah, I got a live band. And they say, ask, how much do you charge? Oh, we charge $500. It's like, okay. Versus me putting a value package together so that the way that my band and what we do as a band is perceived differently. Again, my friends, the perception, our profit is in the perception. That's it. That's what you have to understand that's the biggest thing. When you can create yourself and think of yourself as a business, when you develop the business acumen and you start thinking of yourself in those terms, and then understanding that they buy you before they buy your music. And then that goes into the perception of it. That goes into how people are perceiving you. See, when I was telling you the story about the way I put out my CD, that was giving people a perception of me and the value that I offer and what I was putting into my CD and the hard work. I wasn't just saying I put hard work into it. I told the story about, again, my mom buying me my first keyboard when she really didn't have the money to buy it, and how that's giving me drive to do my best into it. And people bought into that story. People perceive that as something as valuable. And then, of course, understanding that people want to know what's in it for them. This is why you're creating the value package. It's about this perception. The perception is the value. Profit is in the perception. So let me know what you think about these 3 business concepts, music business concepts, how you're going to apply them. Write that in the comments. Let me know if this is something that you use. Also, let me know if it's something that you think I left out. Like, put your best business tip down in the comments and let us know how that works out for you. In the meantime, check out this video on the screen and I'll see you in the next video.